These meetings are and will be published on YouTube, but not on a main page, just on a kind of like hidden playlist. So welcome everyone to this webinar. I'm so glad to have you. My name is Veronica, and I'm the founder of the Bliss and Purpose group, and I'm a relationship coach. So I'm super interested in how we can have better, more pleasurable, more fun, more connected relationships. And today I want to share about a topic that is really dear to my heart, which is all about awakening your inner goddess. And that really means the divine feminine energy. It's so beautiful and so powerful. And I want to share about my own life, what has changed, what has improved in my relationship. And it was already a great place, but really understanding this and really embodying it in my relationship has brought it to a completely new level, which is really incredible. So I hope that you can take lots from it. And yeah, I'm very excited to get into it. And there's not like we have like a chat, but you can only send messages to me because we had some problems with trolls. But if you have questions, feel free to use the chat and I can read them out and of course answer them. But also you can always raise your hand and then just also I can unmute you and you can also, of course, share and ask your question. That's no problem at all. Okay, so the focus of this webinar is really how activating the goddess energy within you helps you to attract amazing relationships. And for the men listening, of course, today is a good opportunity to understand women a bit deeper and what they actually long for in relationships. But it's not an opportunity, you know, to like hate on each other or anything like that. It's really, I always say that so much goes wrong in relationships because the two sexes, you know, men and women, are constantly like fighting each other, but they could be so complementary. And that's really my aim in my work, always to create this beautiful energy between the masculine and the feminine. All right, so this is the schedule for today. So first I'm going to explain what goddess energy is, then how to understand the power of the feminine, then why men love the goddess, how you can activate your goddess energy and attract wonderful relationships, and how goddess energy helps you turn your existing partnership around. All right. And yeah, my name is Veronica and I grew up in Germany, but I'm living right now in England with my English husband. And yeah, I'm a relationship coach and I started also to mentor now, which is a little bit more of a curated, like guided path. And I find great joy in helping women reconnect to their feminine. But I also coach couples and singles around relationships. And recently I started to also mentor and train coaches because, yeah, I'm really passionate about this skill. So that's also something that I do. All right. So what is goddess energy? Let's get started with this. So the most easiest way to explain it, because this is really huge, you know, like the goddess within us is like a huge topic. But I would say at the core, it's this inner deep knowing that we are really worthy of anything good that comes our life, you know, beauty, abundance, connection, love, all these beautiful things. So it's a part of us that never forgets this. Because most of us have experienced like a lot of pain in our life. We have been treated, you know, by family, teachers, partners in a way that makes us not feel worthy. It makes us actually feel that maybe we are completely unlovable. And that can be very, very difficult because, as you can imagine, when we carry this around with us, it ripples out into our relationships. If we think that we are not worthy to attract something amazing into our life, then it will not come. because that's how life works. Whatever we send out, we get back. And so the inner goddess is this part of you that never, ever, ever forgets. In a spiritual sense, you could also say that it's the part that is always connected with the divine. And activating this can be like really huge, because when you imagine like kind of like the modern woman, how is she operating? She's mostly operating from a space of intense stress and lack, because the reason why we feel stress is because we feel like there's not enough time. We have to make up for something. There's so much work. We don't know how to get finished. And that's very real. I've totally been there. So, I'm not saying this without empathy, but the thing is that in this state, we are very disconnected from the amazing abundance that is always around us. And a beautiful client of mine is on this journey right now of connecting with her feminine. And for her, it's really all about slowing down, because she struggles with constant fatigue. And even in her energy, you can see that she's kind of like constantly moving, and there's constantly the stress there. So it's like, yeah, times are hectic and we live in a stressful way, but she's so much in this stressful, actually very masculine energy, that she's not really using her own energy in the right way. So that's where this deep depletion often comes for, because women are constantly in this stressful, hectic energy. So again, the goddess is the place of rest and where we connect again with the amazing abundance. And in relationships, this has like such beautiful effects, because we are not these kind of like intense stress balls anymore that get triggered all the time, because it's very difficult to be in relationship with that. All right, and now I would like to talk a bit about the power of the feminine, because it's very often super misunderstood. When we hear of power and the feminine, we mostly hear of kind of like the women's marches, like women's liberation, emancipation, feminism, all this stuff. But unfortunately, mostly it's kind of like just getting talked about how women can be equal to men. It's all about equality. We have to be the same. And I understand where this comes from, because back in the days, women didn't have the same rights as men, right? So it was important in that sense to get some equality. But the problem with this is, what I see is that now this kind of thinking is not serving us at all, because we kind of like feel good, we feel validated the more masculine we are. But the problem is, the more masculine we get, the more we get depleted and stressed, because women don't work like men. We don't function like men. We have different bodies. But instead of seeing this as a really good thing and like a beautiful thing to complement our world, we are trying to push it away and to put ourselves in this box that is the masculine. So we are trying to be kind of like men, but it doesn't really work. And it doesn't feel good. So that's why here I want to highlight what is actually the power of the feminine compared to the power of the masculine. And the power of the masculine is really about being active, being forward moving, goal oriented, like this goal getter. That's the typical masculine energy. And it's very powerful and beautiful, it's a beautiful energy. And we also have this within us, and, we can activate it, and very often it's super useful. But in general, if we want to attract like amazing relationships and also attract in general anything into our life, it's much, much, much more powerful if we are in feminine energy and if we attract from a feminine way. And this is how this works. So as men manifest through action, like they want something, they go out and get it. Like that's the energy, it's forward moving energy. The women, we attract in a different way. Instead of we going out to get something, we become like magnetic, and the thing that we want comes to us. So it's like the other way around. We basically just relax, desire whatever we want. I would like this, I would like this, and then it comes to us. Of course, this doesn't mean For example, if you have a relationship that you kind of like sit at home and do nothing, and then the perfect man will just walk into your door. But what it means is that if we turn on, again, this goddess energy within us, we are gonna like radiate out to the outside what we want, and then these amazing opportunities will like come to us. But it will feel much more like that the opportunities come into our life than that we go out and we get it and we make it happen. So it's a much more relaxed and soft process. And the reason really how it works is that first you get very, very clear on what you want. That's always in manifestation how you do it. It's the same in the masculine way. Like first you have to be very clear what you want. and that's often where people are already get stuck, because they have maybe subconscious beliefs like I don't deserve this, or I shouldn't have this, or I can't have this, that stops it. Or even, of course, there's parts of them that don't want the same thing. You know, I have a webinar where I talk about, it's actually next week, it's about subconscious blockages to relationships. And there I go into detail why often when it doesn't work out, that you can't find a partner, it's actually because you have parts of yourself that really don't want a partner because of being hurt in the past, and so on and so forth. But anyways, first you have to get really clear on what you want. And then the second thing is to really desire it, like you really want it, and you really enjoy this part of desiring it. Because, you know, many people, they feel maybe bad if they really want something and they can't get it, which is totally understandable. But it's like actually the desiring itself is part of the process, you know, and almost like children that, you know, when they write something on their Christmas list for Santa, then that they kind of like are so excited for it, and they have this beautiful feeling of the joy before getting it. And that is also really, really important. But yeah, so what to take away from this is really that women can turn on their own like radiance, like a magnet, and then things just come into their field like in a really beautiful way. And a good analogy also that you can think about is how bees and flowers work, right? Like the flower is not like moving, it's just like in one place. But what does the flower do? It opens up, it has a beautiful color and maybe a super nice smell, and then the bees are like attracted to it, and they go out and they find it. That's exactly the same way as it works with feminine and masculine manifestation. And how you can also see this, especially in regards to relationships, is that men are truly magnetized to women. And of course, we can see this, or often that's also something that maybe women struggle with, you know, that men are maybe too much looking, or, you know, they give them looks that they don't want. But let's say we think about a situation when you really want a man, right, to be attracted to you, to see you. That's something that I think is so beautiful when every woman can cultivate this. But often people think, oh, it's just like a beautiful woman that has this ability to attract. But that's actually not necessarily true. It's a lot about your feminine energy. So there's sometimes women that are not what you would call like in the mainstream, like super beautiful, but they have this magnetic like energy around them, and you can't really explain it. It's often also with actresses, you know, that maybe are not the most beautiful one, but still everyone is looking at them. And that's because of the feminine energy that is like so beautiful, magnetic. And I actually had a tantra teacher who is exactly like that. She's beautiful, but not like amazing. But when she walks by, you have to look at her because her feminine energy is like so amazing. So it's really, really like something special. But every woman has this. It's not just like certain women. We all have it within us, and we just got to learn how to turn the dial up. All right. So, and now is a question to you. So how do you rate the following? Like, and there's like 3 different things. So I feel connected to my feminine power. I feel connected to my feminine beauty, and I feel connected to my inner goddess. So just think about how you feel about this. And if you want, you can also send your answers in the chat. Because I thought that there were some people in the presentation, but maybe they have left. All right, so you can just think about it, how that is in your life. And what I mean with feminine power is this feeling that you're really safe in yourself, that you know how to set your boundaries, that you feel kind of like grounded and strong. Not that you have to be aggressive or anything, but you know who you are, you know what you stand for, and you feel this like firm, grounded energy. And feeling connected to your feminine beauty is that you feel beautiful, that again, it doesn't matter how you look, but just that you feel that you're a radiant woman, that you know what you want. And then feeling connected to my inner goddess, means to feel like what I was just describing, this kind of like radiance, magnetism. And I think one person has answered, and it seems that they don't feel connected in this way. All right. Oh, and Sana says, power is a 4 out of 10, beauty is a 3 out of 10, and goddess is 6 out of 10. Beautiful. That's very nice, Sana. All right. Very cool. So let's keep going. All right. Now I would like to talk about why men love the goddess. What do I mean by this? So there is this like misconception in our society a bit that men kind of like don't want to commit, that they don't really want to be around women. Some men, that maybe they find it annoying to be in relationships. Like, there's all these things around, oh my gosh, when a man gets married, then he's like caught. And it's so interesting because all the studies show that actually men feel much better, like men actually really want to be in committed relationships, and that in general they like being married, or they that their values are really high in relationships. So kind of like this common view on men and what the statistics show is really different. But then of course, many women have experienced this, that there is a lot of men that don't want to open up, that won't want to commit. But the thing is that often we women unconsciously push men away. And again, this has so much to do with this radiant goddess energy within us, because when you are really connected to your divine feminine, you exude those attributes that men really like makes you want to protect and cherish, basically. It's like this similar story when, like, why does the knight like risk his life to save the princess? That's exactly the story of the masculine and the feminine, that the knight would really die for the goddess, basically for the princess, because she is so important to him, and she brings so much grace and beauty and joy into his life. But the thing is that what I was sharing before, that many women today are very, very stressed, and they are so disconnected from their divine feminine energy that they, this stress makes them belittle and criticize men a lot, and makes them kind of like unconsciously push them away, maybe try to control them, all this kind of like stuff, maybe play games. And this is all the things that push the masculine like really strongly away, because it's all those aspects that men find really, really hard to be around, which I also can really understand, because for me, it's really the same. When I'm around women that are in this really stressed energy, I find it really difficult to be in that space. And maybe many of you have also had mothers like this. My mother, for example, she was so emotionally unregulated And as a child, I really struggled with this. Because when she was stressed, and she started to either let her stress out on other people, or she would kind of like withdraw and so on. So this is all what we call like the shadow feminine aspect. And I'm not saying at all, that men don't have their faults. Not at all saying that, like for men, I have different webinars where I talk about how they can improve. But just in this presentation, I want to help you know what you can do to improve in relationships, So it's not about blaming or saying that you are the only ones at fault. This is just from my experience as a relationship coach, what I can see women kind of like contribute to relationship problems. So I would invite you to get to know your feminine energy and learn what does it mean when I walk in the feminine, when I speak in the feminine. And it doesn't also mean that you always have to be like super soft, and especially it doesn't mean that you have to be weak. It just means that you let the love that you have inside really shine through, essentially. And sometimes we are a bit crazy. That's also part of the feminine. Sometimes we are super emotional and all that, but we can be emotional and like a bit crazy without attacking our man, and without punishing them for our emotions. And men in return can learn to hold us in all our emotions. And then we create like a really beautiful, loving partnership. And it's very, very nice. Yeah, again, if you have any questions, please write in the comments. I'll read it, as I said, or you can also use this little raise hand buttons, and I'm happy to also answer your questions. Okay, so now I would like to talk a little bit about dating and how you can activate your goddess energy and attract wonderful relationships. And yeah, this is, I think, a really cool topic because it's actually so beautiful to start this journey before you have a relationship. Because in the next point, then I'm going to talk about how you can use goddess energy to turn your existing relationship around. That's always a little bit harder because, as you know, like we humans love patterns. So also in relationship, we have a pattern, and then to change this pattern can be very difficult. And that's how it was with my partner, actually. Like in the beginning, our relationship looked so different, and we had to put a lot of work into it to change it. And for us, it's kind of like, all right, because we are super committed on this path, but it can be a lot of work. So it's nice to do this before you basically have a new partnership. Yeah. So I want to share like a story about one of my clients. And she came to me and we were working on the topics of femininity. And it was really funny because she said to me, she was living in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And she said, Veronica, I really want a committed man, but in Amsterdam, there's no committed men living. Like, you can forget it. Like, they all just want like short flings and stuff. And I was like, okay. And I was like, so tell me about your dating life. And she was like, yeah, like I find these men on Tinder. I just want to date them, but they only want to go to bed with me, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, I really feel you. And I said to her, like, what's your filters on dating? And she was like, yeah, like I always put everything, I'm looking for non-committed, committed, like all these different filters, because I feel like otherwise I will never find a man. And then I said to her, just try to just put the filter that you're only looking for a committed relationship. And she got really scared. She was like, I'm never going to have any dates. And I was like, okay, just try it. And then when we met again, she was like, oh my gosh, so many guys want committed relationships. I was like, So it was like a total limiting belief she had. And it was really about her experiencing this lack again, this perceived lack in her mind. So part of her was convincing her that she had to keep all her options open, that she should not have standards because otherwise no one would be interested. And she actually realized that that was so not true, because actually there were a lot of guys also just fed up, with having these short-term relationships. And there were a lot of guys that were saying, oh, I only want to go on a date if you are if you want something serious. So that was a total mind changer. And that is really, again, how the goddess energy is improving our life, because it helps us see our own worth. In her case, there's nothing wrong with having non-committed relationship. But what I mean is that if you want to have a committed relationship, the first thing that is important to feel is that you are worth it, that men will want this, and that you deserve it, essentially. So that is so important for dating. And when we don't do this, very often we will attract uncommitted, boyish, weak, and emotionally unavailable men. So this is like the thing that like most women I work with complain with, that they only meet these kinds of men. But again, there's a reason why you're attracted. You are sending something out that attracts this to you. And that is the beautiful empowerment here, because you can change this within you in order then to have a different experience. And that's, I think, just so beautiful, because of course there's definitely, not bad men out there, or men that, maybe lied to us and all that stuff. I'm not saying that that doesn't exist, but at the same time, we can do a lot to prevent this from happening, actually with really simple things. And that's what I find so beautiful. Okay. Okay. And again, you can answer this question. I tend to attract uncommitted men, boyish men, emotionally unavailable men, weak men, or wonderful men. So just think about it. Maybe you can use it a bit to your own reflection, how that is in your life. Uncommitted and weak men. Yeah, really interesting. And of course, what I mean with weak men is men that don't have a strong opinion, where we almost feel like we are more the man in the relationship, or maybe where we are more the mother in the relationship. That's also what I mean with boyish men. There's sometimes this dynamic in a relationship that the woman becomes a mother, the man becomes like the child. So yeah, that's obviously very unhealthy and not very good for your sex life. And Jill says, everything but wonderful men. Oh, that sucks. And Amanda, boyish men. Yeah, exactly. So I think, as I said, if you feel like you kind of like attract all of these types, then I would really look into, do you feel like you deserve a good relationship? Do you maybe feel like you need to be pleasing? And do you not have enough standards? And it's always good, to do some trauma healing, to do some inner child work. That's always really, really helpful. But if it's a specific type, like a specific pattern, then it's really helpful to look into it and to see, okay, for example, I used to always attract emotionally unavailable men because my dad was super emotionally unavailable. I mean, the classic example, but there's a reason why it's classic, because it's very often true. So if you have one specific type, then it's really helpful to think about, okay, what is it that I find so attractive about them? Which kind of man in my past was maybe like this? It could also be that you are attracted to the opposite that your dad was. And also a really helpful tip I have is to not to judge, but to doubt a little bit your attraction, because the attraction often comes from a trauma standpoint, that the only reason we are attracted to someone is because a part of us knows that we can become aware of part of our trauma. So in my case, I am now not at all, like zero, attracted to emotionally unavailable men, because I know what would happen 100%, but only because I healed that part of myself. So I don't have the childhood fantasy anymore that if I get together with this man and the relationship works, then somehow I can heal the relationship with my dad. That's the healing fantasy that we have. So the attraction can shift when you heal trauma, and that's very interesting. So I hope that helps you a little bit. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we come now to the last part of this presentation. Thank you so much for staying. Oh, and Chill says, I'm not attracted to these men. They are the ones who approach me. Ah, I see what you mean. That's already very good, I think. And if it's like this, then yeah, again, it would be very interesting. You could do like a journaling exercise and think, okay, what do you think that why these men are attracted to you? Would be very interesting. And you can do stream of consciousness journaling, which is basically that you ask this question: why are these men attracted to me? And then for 5 minutes, without putting a pen on, you just write everything that comes, and that's how you can access your subconscious mind, and maybe some really interesting stuff emerges that will help you to shift this pattern. Okay, and oh, sorry, there was another comment. Hi. Namanda says, same, I'm very aware that my parents were childish and I often had to comfort them. Yes, Amanda, I know exactly how you feel, and I can recommend a really, really good book. It's called Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. It's like amazing. I'm going to put it in the chat because I think everyone should read this, because for most of us, our parents were actually emotionally immature. And what this means basically is that you as a child put yourself in the parent role to stay safe. So I was always like suppressing my own feelings to comfort my mom. I soon became kind of like the family therapist already at a really young age. That's why I'm a coach now. Yay. No, it has had its advantages. Now I at least can make a career out of it. But yeah, so this emotionally and what that happens is that you also feel, or often we feel then, that our only worth is if we kind of like help others, so often we have then men that are maybe a bit messed up and we like rescue them, or we have friends, all that stuff. So it's really, really good to like look into this, because it enslaves you essentially, all this like unhealed wounds from the past. And yeah, it would be so beautiful to be free in our adulthood and to be able to make choices, and not to be so imprisoned by all these patterns that we have from childhood. Okay, thank you so much for the very nice comment. So now in the last part, I want to share about how goddess energy helps you turn your own partnership around. And I can share a bit about my own story here. So when I met my husband, Matt. He also comes sometimes on the webinars, but right now he's very busy with his job. So we met about 5.5 years ago in India, and I was a very different woman back then. I used to be quite masculine, quite kind of like loud and a bit aggressive and very dominant. And my partner was more kind of like gentle and relaxed. I mean, he has a lot of power in him, but he was kind of like keeping it hidden. And so we had this dynamic for the first 2 years or so, even 3, that I was more kind of like the boss, and my boyfriend was, more kind of like this a bit silent man, kind of like letting me sort of like dominate the relationship. And yeah, it created really such horrible patterns. Like I shared this a little bit on my website, how I was at some point, I really caught myself being really nasty to him, just kind of like, blaming him, and conflicts getting really mean, like just being rude, like I was like, oh my gosh, like what's happening here? But then I also was kind of like making a lot of the decisions, and and it just made me feel not good, and it was not good for our attraction. And it created a lot of arguments. I think that was like the worst for us. There was a lot of arguments. And so when I discovered like the power of the feminine, wow, it started to shift. And it was so beautiful, because my husband and I always were like, we got along so well, from the minute we were like best friends. So it's really, he is like the coolest guy I ever met, so I'm so glad that I was able to shift this. But what then came on top was the super, super, super deep love, but also the passion for each other. And I think it's so beautiful because, you know, it's such a trend also that people constantly get divorced and stuff. So I think it's so amazing if we can find a way that we can actually keep the attraction alive. And that's really what happens if you turn on this beautiful femininity. And of course, men also can do amazing practices to keep their masculine energy going. And my partner's actually really deep into this world. And he does a lot of things to boost his testosterone level, because testosterone is actually nothing bad. It's like a positive hormone for men. It makes them strong and healthy and all that. And how it works, obviously, is that the femininity and the masculinity is like two poles. And the further away they are in a healthy way, like they really attract each other, and then it becomes very, very sizzling. And that's why often in the beginning, men and women are so attracted to each other, because both of them are in the strong polarity. You know, it's like how dating works is very much that men are super in their masculine. You're like asking the woman out, like paying on dates, like organizing a date, you know, showing her how cool they are. And women very much in the feminine. So, you know, letting them open the door, letting them choose the restaurant, making themselves beautiful, kind of like giving them, yeah, their grace, their beauty, all that things. Like that's the dance of the masculine and the feminine. But yeah, it's normal in our culture that it fizzles out, but it doesn't have to. You can totally keep it sizzling and fizzling. No, not fizzling, just sizzling. Yeah, and that is again something to cultivate within you. And also statistically, really, like, men love to be in long-term relationships, but not, you know, if there's a lot of like fighting and arguing and nagging. And, you know, I'm not saying you should suppress your feelings, not at all. But what I mean is to learn how to express them in a healthy, respectful way. And of course, the other way around, the same thing. But really, when I see men and women, like couples, on the streets or, you know, just out in public, I'm so shocked the way they treat each other. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's really, really like quite terrible, you know. So I think it's often so important when we experience, you know, maybe in relationships, these feelings that he doesn't really love us, he doesn't really cherish us, you know, that he doesn't really do romantic things for us. It's very often because we have created this super unhealthy dynamic. And yeah, then men don't have this natural urge, you know, to spoil you and to be close to you. It's natural. It's the same way around, right? Like you also don't want to do like beautiful things for him when you feel so disconnected. Like it's so normal. But yeah, I hope that this can inspire you a bit, that there's definitely things you can do always to turn your existing relationship around. Cool. And if one woman here is maybe super enthusiastic about the things I've shared, I've actually got one spot open in my pioneer program of my new mentorship, which is called Awaken Your Inner Goddess. And it's so beautiful because everything we shared here today, like I'll teach you in this mentorship. And yeah, you can read more on my website. I just put it in the chat. And it's really such a beautiful journey that is so worth it, because it's not just for relationships, but really your whole life. It invites more calmness, more beauty, like you feel more in your body and you feel more joy, you know, because yeah, we women are so disconnected. Like we are actually the ones that have a much easier access to joy and pleasure and fulfillment than men. But because we have created this unhealthy dynamic around the feminine, we often don't feel those things. And it's so powerful to do this path with another woman, because initiation works so good with someone from the same sex, you know, as men have often masculine initiators. It's the same for women. And I had beautiful teachers, and I have many beautiful women, mentors, coaches in my life that support me and help me. So yeah, if you're interested, as I said, I have one open spot. And the Pioneer program works like this, that It's about half price of the usual program. It goes 3 months. We meet every week for a session. And what we also do is that the sessions will be recorded. They will not be published. It's just for me so that I can watch the sessions, rewatch the sessions, because I'm just developing this program. So I want to make a few adjustments. I'm going to ask you a few questions in between to give me feedback. And also in the end, we'll have an interview where you share your experiences about this program, which I'll put on my website, and also to write just about your experience, what has happened, which results did you have, and so on. So yeah, if you're interested in this, please check it out on my website. You can book also a discovery call with me, which is 15 minutes, where you can get to know me. And yeah, I would be very excited to have you. I love to talk about this, to share this, because it's really, I think that this knowledge can change the world. So one more chance. If someone has a question, please raise your hand. Or, yeah, great. Corey and Sana, wonderful. Yes, I'm going to unmute you now, Corey. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I have, today, that is a practical thing. I had to cut the grass. And that was really a heavy work for me. And during doing that, I thought, wow, is it really a women work? But can that not also be in the way of the powerful women, that I see that it becomes nicer, and to make it in a very good way, that it really looks good? Because I thought myself, oh God, am I now a man that I do that? But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful question. So the first thing that I want to say is that, like, of course, the cool thing is that we can do everything, right? As women, like, we can. If a man is around to do it and offers it, it's so beautiful and it can be graceful, but we always have this power. But the thing is also, you can cut grass in a feminine way.
Yeah.
Which would be like to have fun with it, to play with it, to be like a child, to make it a bit like crazy, to maybe throw the grass, kind of like to have fun with it. Because I recently discovered, because I take cold showers, that's my practice, and cold showers is a very masculine thing. It's kind of like hard and strenuous. You don't like it, And I went in the shower and I did like this, okay. And then the shower was beating down on me and I was like, and then I was like, oh man, this is so masculine. So how can I make it like feminine? And then I started to play with the water and I was like, hey, water, what's up? And I was like dancing, like this. And so I did the practice in a feminine way. So I think maybe if you need to do something, you can think about ways to make it a bit more fun and playful and to invite the feminine into your life.
So. This is a very, very helpful answer. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Just a little one. Sometimes it happens to me that I attract the wrong man. Not always, but sometimes. And I do not know. I think then, why is that happening? They are totally the wrong ones. And what do I then present to them? I mean, what is it? How can I see what is my situation when that happens?
Yeah, so like, we attract both from the conscious and the subconscious. So usually when a person like this, especially if they really trigger you, I always call them like a spiritual master. Like, they always come into your life because you are not seeing something. So the best thing you can do is really to feel your feelings and be like, okay, what comes up for me with that person? And to think about what does this show me? What is happening right now that this person is in your life? Is it that you don't have good boundaries? Is it that you feel low self-worth? Is it maybe that you're not connected to your needs? Maybe, a child part of you is like, oh, I really, really want more rest and relaxation, and then I have this person coming that's constantly stressing me or something like this. Do you see what I mean? So treat them like teachers that have a message for you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. And then I have Sana also.
Hi, yes.
Hello.
I can see myself. Is the camera een beetje, is the camera okay? The position?
Yeah, totally, it's fine.
Yeah, I was wondering, I really love it when a man is that container for me and can contain my my dysregulated emotions. It really calms me down. I feel instantly like my nervous system relaxes, and it really helps me. But I was wondering, how can I do a similar thing for men, but in a feminine way? Do they need the same? Do they need something else for that same relaxation? Because I can imagine that men, especially in this world, are longing for that as well.
Yeah. Wow, that's a really, really good question. Yes. So what calms men down is the being touched by the feminine grace, you know. So if we look into the kind of like the old world more, when men were at work and women were at home, it was this, I come home, my woman has prepared a loving meal for me, and I can sit down and all the stress is melting, and she's like, oh darling, how was your job, how were you, right? Like that's how it was, let's say, in the past. And not saying that it always was like this, but just to give you like a metaphor. And now in the modern times, that's exactly it, you know. So for example, Matt also has a super, super intense job, and so when he comes, I kind of like just give him a hug and just say, oh darling, would you like a tea or something? Come, just lie down for a moment, you know. That's how I talk with him. So I'm not like mothering him, but I'm like really soft and, you know, like gentle, and it's like this healing. And when I'm in this energy, it's like he's like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better, you know, because he has a rest from all this competing. Yeah.
Yes, I think I know what you mean. I think I actually had ex-boyfriends that were more in the feminine energy that did that. And it really worked with me as well.
Yes.
Maybe also because I was more in my masculine energy then. So
yes, sometimes I also massage his foot or just put my hand a little bit here, you know, like this, and never to, you know, I don't like tell him what to do, but it's more like this, just I create this like sort of like soft space for him to calm down. And yeah, it works. We also, for children, this is like works so well to be this, because the feminine is the resting energy, you know, so it's very powerful.
okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And then there was a few chats. Okay. It says, but if women also need to be in intensive jobs to earn enough, nowadays, if only men work in a marriage is not enough. Yes, 100%. And that's really a, you know, it's an issue. As I said, like there is a reason why we as women are so stressed often, because life is truly hectic. But as I said, also often there's also a lot of emotional components. Like I was, for example, working for like years basically to calm down my nervous system. I had so much trouble sleeping because my nervous system was so highly active. So on top of kind of like the demands of the world, there's very often also our traumatic patterns, our wounds, and so on and so forth, that makes everything more intense. Because even if you have to do something laborious and something hard, you could do it from a place of calmness and being grounded, instead of feeling super stressed. Or for example, many women are like really perfectionistic, you know, then they have a lot on their plate and then they want to be perfect, and then it becomes just really, really stressful for them. So it's an exploration process, But I deeply believe that if we really set our mind to it, also to simplify, and as I said, to invite the magic of the goddess into our life, then we can slowly work to create a more calm and relaxed life. Okay, everybody. Wow, this was not long. So yeah, thank you so much for joining. I had a very good time. Thank you for your beautiful questions. It was so beautiful to connect with the regular people. And yeah, next week will all be about unconscious blockages to relationships. Again, if maybe a woman feels called, check out my website, check out the mentorship program, and you can always book a free discovery call or send me an email. And I would be so happy to start this journey with you. So all the best. Have a beautiful evening, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.